Monaco, the fabled principality on the French Riviera. Opulence is the order of the day here. Nothing is too ostentatious, too outrageous, too outlandish. It's live and let's do it all again tomorrow in this land of fiscal make-believe. It's measured not in square miles, but acres, and more than a few of its residents and regular visitors have net worths that measure up to the annual budgets of some fair-sized cities. Each year at this time, the automobile becomes the focal point in Monaco. Be it miniaturized on a charm bracelet or the real thing on the Principality streets, the fascination with cars becomes an obsession with the running of the Monaco Grand Prix. In a dramatic finish last year, Alain Prost of France was less than 2 laps from victory and running alone when this crash turned him into an also-ran. That opened the door for Riccardo Patrese of Italy, whose sudden good fortune turned suddenly sour when this spin in the hairpin turn appeared to end his chances for victory. Patrese's misfortune put Didier Pironi in perfect position to win the race, but incredibly, his Ferrari came to a stop in the tunnel 1 mile from the finish. Meanwhile, Patrese had managed, despite his spin, to keep his engine running and get his car back on the course to the finish line and took the checkered flag. The wild finish with the cars on slick tires was triggered by rain, which started to fall late in the race, and which today looks like it will provide the big story again as a field of 20 Formula One racers lines up. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Al Michaels, and welcome to the world's most glamorous sporting event. Right now, however, there are more raincoats around here than mink coats because the weather is the big story. It rained quite a bit yesterday. It has rained this morning and off and on through the afternoon, and right now the track is wet. And the 41st Grand Prix of Monaco will get started on a slick surface. This is the 5th stop of 16 along the 1983 circuit, and right now a very good battle for the driving championship after the first 4 events. Alain Prost of France is tied with Nelson Piquet of Brazil, each with 15 points, and Patrick Tambay right in the thick of things. He's third with a total of 14. Right now, let me bring in Jackie Stewart, my colleague, a 3-time winner of this race. He last won the event back in 1973. And of course, Jackie, everybody around here right now talking and thinking about the weather and what the slick surface is going to mean.
Well, of course, Monaco is extremely slippery when wet. We can remember back to last year when, in the closing stages of the race, rain came on and many cars went off the road. I can remember back to 1972 when it was just appalling conditions. You could hardly see a thing as a driver. I spun off twice. It was certainly no game. The same applies today. Now, this is the first time in modern Grand Prix history that there are more turbocharged engines in this race than normally aspirated engines. Now, that could be a problem for the turbos because they've got, between 600 and 700 brake horsepower. To apply that kind of power to this wet racetrack is no easy matter. So, therefore, it could be something for the normally aspirated engines. Now, of course, here in Grand Prix motor racing, we do drive in the rain, unlike Indianapolis or Daytona, for example. The reason we do that, there are special tires. A man who's been world champion, won this Grand Prix on 2 occasions. Our man in the pits for this weekend, Jody Scheckter, could explain that a little further.
Because more than 50% of the cars chose wet tires, this is called a wet race, meaning they won't stop the race if it's a downpour of rain. It's up to the driver to come in when it's too dangerous on the circuit. This is the wet tire. The basic difference between a wet and a dry tire is the treads. This gets rid of the water. The problem is the dry tire will just aquaplane. There's no way to get rid of the water, and it'll be like a boat without a rudder. And using the wet tire and the dry, it'll overheat. There's not enough rubber on the road. Personally, I think I would have chosen dry tires, but it's a gamble either way, depending on the weather.
Looking down on this model of the Monaco Grand Prix racetrack, 2.058 miles around, 18 bends per lap, 76 laps for the race. Very slippery when wet.
So the car's right now nearing the conclusion of the warm-up lap. And let's take a look at this field, which has Alain Prost of France on the pole, flanked by his teammate last year, René Arnoux, who's now driving for Ferrari. The second row in this staggered grid has the American Eddie Cheever and Patrick Tambay. Then in row 3, K.K. Rosberg in car number 1. He was the world champion last year. And Nelson Piquet driving car 5. The Brabham, Piquet was the world champion in 1981. A look now at some of the rest of the starters, and it's interesting to note that 2 teammates are out of it, John Watson and Niki Lauda, who both had problems qualifying on the first day of qualifying attempts, and then they were stymied by the rain yesterday in the final qualification session. Neither man made the field, and the field is rounded out by an American driver from Louisville, Kentucky, Danny Sullivan in car number 4 driving a Tyrrell. By our count, as they get ready to start this race, 13 of the 20 will start on wet tires and just 7 on dry tires. A look there at Prince Renier and his family, and a sad scene in a way because the Royal Box minus Princess Grace, who died tragically in an auto accident last September here. The field of 20 starting on the green light and heading into the Sandoval corner, and it's a good start for the pole sitter Alain Prost, who was leading much of the race last year, and the Williams of Keke Rosberg has quickly moved up from the 3rd row into 2nd position, so a great start for the defending world champion, but Prost has the lead as they head up the hill with Rosberg 2nd.
It has seemed a clear lap all the way up the hill, no incidents at Sandoval, which could so easily have happened in these extraordinarily slippy conditions. And the cars come through the casino square, head down towards the Mirabeau, and now the leading Renault is in fact on wet tires and Keke Rosberg is on dry tires. This is a significant thing for Rosberg.
So it's a chess game right now as they head down toward the Lowe's hairpin. Alain Prost of France, the leader, with the defending world champion Rosberg in 2nd place, and the other Renault driven by the American Eddie Cheever in his first year with a Renault team, currently in 3rd place as they head in toward the tunnel.
In the tunnel now, it's completely dry in the tunnel for the drivers. They can apply all the power they want through there because it, of course, is not slippery. As he comes out the tunnel going towards the chicane on the first lap, you've got to be very careful and very gentle going through there. One of the rules. Look at the lead they've taken from Eddie Cheever in 3rd position, hounded by the Ferraris thereafter. Jacques Lafitte quite well up on the other Williams, and he's on dry tires also.
The Ferraris are running 4th and 5th after starting 2nd and 4th. Rene Arnoux dropping back. He started on the front row, but got off to a slippery start, and as a consequence, it was Rosberg able to move by him. He has dropped back to 5th with his teammate Patrick Tambay in 4th position right now.
Big gamble for Keke Rosberg to be on the dry tires, but keep in mind if the track dries out, he's going to have an enormous advantage. And there you have the battle for 3rd position between Eddie Cheever, the American, Rene Arnoux and the Ferrari, with also Tambay in the Ferrari. They're driving all on wet weather tires, and the Ferrari drafts along inside. He's going for a pass. He's going into Sandoval. He's slipped through. Rene Arnoux and the Ferrari's got through. He's accelerating up from Sandoval, but they're side by side. Eddie Cheever in the yellow car has repassed the Ferrari. Tremendous effort by him. Tremendous beginning to this Monaco Grand Prix.
Although today it's overcast, on a sunny day, this is the way the famed casino at Monte Carlo looks. And at night, here's a look at it in all of its glittering splendor. This is a building that's been the subject of numerous films and novels since it opened in 1863, and that still maintains its aura of opulence. The dice still roll, and the cards are still dealt, and the wheels still spin. And people still dream of breaking the bank at Monte Carlo, a gambler's paradise. Today, however, there's been no bigger winner in this principality than that man at the moment, Keke Rosberg, who has taken the lead early in the Grand Prix of Monaco on car number 1. He started this race on dry tires. We didn't know which way the weather was going to go when the light turned green. Right now, it has remained dry since the outset of the race. Alain Prost of France in the yellow and white Renault is in 2nd place. He's running on wet tires. Back in 3rd is Rene Arnoux. He is also on wet tires. Then Jacques Lafitte, the teammate of Rosberg, on dry tires is 4th, and Eddie Cheever on wet tires has dropped back to 5th place.
A brilliant drive so far by Keke Rosberg. Those conditions really are very slippery, and the tires that he's wearing are simply not suited to it. You can see the reflection on the wet surface here. Now, if, however, this track turns dry, he's going to have an enormous advantage. But if it were to rain again, Rosberg would really be in bad shape. Right now, he's driving around the racetrack looking for grip, not using the conventional line in particular parts of the racetrack, because what he has to do is try and find the part of racetrack where there is more grip, and right now you can see that on the inside of the racetrack coming down to Mirabeau. We had an opportunity to speak to Keke Rosberg. How much did the World Championship mean to you as a driver?
Well, as a driver, it obviously was some sort of a fulfillment of a goal, but it doesn't stop there. After that, one obviously sets himself new goals that he'll go after. And, you know, it's past and it's happened. I'm glad it happened, and I hope it will happen again one day.
There's Nelson Piquet. He has come in for dry tires. Started on wet, has to make the change now.
Well, that's a big decision for him also, because it's not perfectly clear to any of us, and that was a quick pit change. That looked like it might have been 10 or 12 seconds. The Brabham team, very efficient with its pit stops. Earlier this season in Grand Prix racing, they've been coming in quite often to refill. That's a turbocharged car, and incidentally, the car that's leading this race, the car going through the tunnel right now and just coming out of that tunnel, Keke Rosberg, is a normally aspirated engine, not a turbocharged engine, whereas the BMW that was in the pits there was one of the turbos.
But the best decision that he has made thus far was to start this race on dry tires up until nearly race time. We had some sprinkles off and on. It was a real guessing game going on as to whether or not it should be dry tires or wet tires that you put on your car. Rosberg elected to go with a dry set, and right now he looks like he's a winner, at least at the moment.
Well, he has a gigantic lead, and this is because the wet weather tire is a much softer tire. It's got deep tread on it. It has what you call tread shuffle. And here right now, the Ferrari of Arnoux is being pressed very hard by the second Williams car of Jacques Lafitte, another Frenchman. And he's pressing very hard at the heels of the Ferrari. Remember, Lafitte is also in dry weather tires, whereas the red Ferrari that you're looking at, driven by René Arnoux, is in wet weather tires. This is an amazing performance by the Williams team. They took a very big gamble. They put both their cars on dry weather tires, and it certainly so far appears to be paying off.
So the battle for third right there, but Jacques Lafitte really putting the pressure on car 28, René Arnoux.
And in fact, disappearing from our picture right now is the American driver Eddie Cheever in the other Renault. He's dropped way back. We can hardly see him in that picture. That is, of course, the car of Jacques Lafitte, enormously experienced driver going through the Casino Square. Going down to the Mirabeau, attempting a pass up the inside. Can he do it? He's trying to slip up, but no. René Arnoux closes the door.
But Jacques Lafitte has already picked up quite a bit of ground on René Arnoux, and again now you have the other Brabham in for a change of tires. We earlier saw Piquet in, and now Ricardo Patrese, and now you've got car 28, René Arnoux, having some trouble. René Arnoux with a punctured left rear tire.
I think he's hit the guardrail. It looks like the wheel is broken and the tire has gone down. This is one of the penalties of Monaco. You slide a car out, you kiss a guardrail, you hit a curb, and of course you brake. It's light aluminum wheels, and they so easily break. René Arnoux now trying to drive the car back as quickly as possible. He has to be extremely careful when he comes down here. And there's the car's trying to get past him. That's the other Renault of Eddie Cheever. They're coming through, and look at the wheel just flew off there, flying across the racetrack, high in the air. The part of the wheel, the inside of the wheel is flying apart. Very dangerous, not only for other cars, but for debris on the racetrack. You can see the front wing has been damaged, front aerofoil. He's hardly driving with any wheel at all. This is really a precarious set of circumstances now. He could lose control of the car at any time, and I do know that the marshals and commissaires will be paying extra attention now to the racetrack to pick up that, because they're sharp pieces. They could cause punctures to other cars. Front wing hanging off, rear wheel literally holding itself on just by half a wheel. And it looks right now that the car's come to a complete stop. He's not getting any drive from it. I suggest that the suspension is probably damaged, the transmission is damaged, and we'll be right back. They be little dinghies or whether they be enormous crafts, under sail or under power, they're drawn almost by a magnet to the harbour of Monte Carlo, and this is the most important weekend in the Monaco year. The opulence, the elegance. These craft come from almost every corner of the world. They're parked elegantly here in the Principality, and the people, they'll climb anywhere to see the race.
When this race started, the teams had to make a decision whether to go with wet tires or dry tires, and the Williams team elected to take the chance and go with the dry tires. And as a consequence, it has not rained, and they are doing exceptionally well, in fact, running 1-2. You have Keke Rosberg out in front. He's not had very good success here at Monaco. In fact, he's never finished a race here, and 3 times he's tried to qualify and did not, but he's the defending world champion, and he's built up a very sizable lead over his teammate, Jacques Lafitte. So the Williams tandem, an exceptionally good shape, at least at the outset, Jackie.
Well, the Renaults both have come into the pit, if you're wondering where they went, because, of course, Alain Prost was leading earlier on. The yellow car just going out of the picture is the American driver, Eddie Cheever, who is just about about to be lapped, perhaps, by Rosberg, because Eddie Cheever has been into the pits to change from wet weather tyres to dry tyres. It will now be very difficult for Keke Rosberg to pass Cheever, however, because the turbocharged Renault has got a considerable power advantage over the normally aspirated engine of Keke Rosberg. They're now coming down to the slowest part of this racetrack, the Lowe's hairpin, which used to be the old station hairpin. The yellow and white car of Eddie Cheever's, the Renault, closely followed there by car number 1, the reigning world champion Keke Rosberg, and the green and white car from Finland.
Well, they may not be able to get by him, but that does not matter at the moment if it does not rain the rest of the day, and he can stay away from the guardrails and any bad racing luck because he's running very smoothly. He has built up a substantial lead. He's on the right set of tires at least right now, and the only thing that could throw a damper into their plans, so to speak, would be the rain.
If rain arrives now, however, most of the leading teams have come into the pits and have changed tyres. So therefore, everybody's in the same boat. The gamble that Rosberg and Lafitte played off was a remarkable choice. And as you say, a golden choice, because they were the only potential winners in this race to go with the dry weather tyre. Either somebody's been talking to people in high places, or they knew something that we didn't know.
And let's see if we can find out a little bit more about that as we check in with Jody Scheckter.
On your car's on dry tires, it looks like it's the right decision. What made you make that decision? It wasn't raining enough at the start, and our dry tires have a fairly soft compound, and until there was standing water on the track, and figuring there'd be a lot of traffic to dry what little water there was, I took a chance. I didn't panic because, I mean, I could be wrong. The problem is it's officially a wet race. So if it pours with rain, they don't stop the race. Right. What's happening now is that most of the other wet starters are going dry, so soon we should be even Stevens. But if it rained now, I'd be in trouble.
But right now, the Williams team not only running first, but also second. There is Jacques Lafitte, so they made the right decision in spades at this point. The Renault team, meanwhile, started the race on wet tires. For more on that, Jody's with the chief of competition for Michelin.
Both the Renaults went onto wet tires. Why was that decision made?
The problem was to be able to do without too many risks the first laps because of the wet on the Mirabeau and Casino. It would be very, very dangerous and difficult. As the driver said, they thought that it was better not to take a risk with slicks for first laps, even if it's lose time, like as it dry, like it does.
Right.
So the mistake.
Yeah. So it was really the driver's decision to put on the wet tires.
It has been a decision of all the team, but the driver said that it would be very dangerous to do the first lap on that wet with the slick tires.
So there speaks the man who was part of a decision that seems to have been wrong amongst the Renault team to choose the wet weather tires to start as the car comes through the chicane, and Eddie Cheever from the Renault has got his hand in the air. Alan Prost, his own teammate, passes him there. He's okay, but Cheever's the young American driver who's spent most of his life in Europe, has had a mechanical happening, it would seem. He is very much still an American. He waves your American flag often, but today it looks like he won't be waving it much longer. It looks like he's over for the day.
It is still Keke Rosberg who has the lead. Last year's world champion out in front by a large margin over Jacques Lafitte. Then Marc Surer, he's the only Swiss driver on the Grand Prix circuit, running third. Derek Warwick of Great Britain is fourth, and Alain Prost of France currently fifth.
We're back at the Grand Prix of Monaco. Just a few years back, women weren't even allowed in the pits at Indianapolis. Not so in Grand Prix racing, where the women act very positively in the pits for lap charting and timekeeping. At Monte Carlo, you get a great collection of people. Some of the ladies merely come to adorn the pits.
At the moment, however, the eyes are not on the pits, but on the racetrack itself, where we have a good battle for third. Marc Surer in car 29, followed by Derek Warwick and Nelson Piquet. Those three are moving up on the back marker. First man in your picture here, the American Danny Sullivan. But Surer has been holding on for third for several laps, and Surer turns sideways, gets hit by Warwick, goes into the guardrail. Marc Surer gets spun all the way around. There is Warwick backing up. He's trying to get back out on the course and up the hill. He is in motion, and it appears that Surer is okay as he vacates his car.
Yes, Mark Surer, who had a heavy accident in South Africa. Both his ankles were broken a few years back. What a disappointment for the young man in third position there. Had it coming together. We'll have to look at that again in slow motion. But there they're going to put a crane on that car probably and lift it over the barrier. Monaco extremely fast on this type of thing. They may just be moving the car across the racetrack because it's not too badly damaged. The rear wheels still seem to be okay. That's what they're doing. The yellow flag, which is the flag to advise other drivers of caution, is out, and the emergency crews are trying to move that around as quickly as possible. Very disappointing for Mark Surer. Let's watch it again. Danny Sullivan, incidentally, the American driver in the green car there, coming towards Saint-Devoux. Roughly, Sullivan's in about 10th place, 9th place right now as he comes into Saint-Devoux. But watch behind Sullivan. Mark Surer now coming along there. Derek Warwick in the more powerful turbocharged car gets up the inside there. Mark Surer trying to keep his line and moves over to take the corner, gets hit. The rear wheel of Surer's car was hit by the front right wheel of Derek Warwick's car. Car smashed into the barrier, went right across the racetrack, hit the barrier, not so hard, but certainly hard enough to disable that car completely. Derek Warwick half spun his car. Nelson Piquet slips through in the Brabham to take over third position in this race. Alan Prost takes up fourth position. Derek Warwick reverses away there and is allowed to continue.
Mark, we could see on the TV a little bit. I wasn't sure if it was Warwick that touched you coming in or not.
Yes. He tried to pass me. He must have braked much too late. He hit me in the back wheel and I spun off.
You spun, yeah, because it looked like he caught your back wheel.
He hit me quite hard, actually.
Yeah.
Because I spun, I crashed into the left barrier.
Right, I could see that.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, because you're going very well.
Yes, it was all right so far. No problems.
Certainly Derek Warwick did hit. You can see the impact right there, and the car comes into the barrier. Now watch the driver's head here. It really gets thrashed forward on that impact, and of course pieces fly off the car there, absorbing the energy. Derek Warwick was able to go around the racetrack, has come into the pits, and he's now with Jody Scheckter.
From what we could see in the pits, it looked like you touched him at the back, but there was some confusion because there was seemed to be 3 cars involved.
Yeah, well, Sullivan was in the front and he was holding us up, and Surer was right behind him. Then going into the corner, I started to go by him, and then he hesitated and come over and just touched my front wheel.
Right. I mean, Monaco is such a difficult pass to overtake. It seems like this is what happens. Yeah.
For sure.
So both Surer and Warwick are out of the race, and that... We're back to the Grand Prix of Monaco, and the leader is the same man who was out in front when we last were with you. It's Keke Rosberg in car 1, the defending world champion. His team, the Williams team, made the right choice early on when it looked like it might rain. A lot of the top teams went with the rain tires. They decided to go with the slicks. It has not rained throughout the course of the race. The track is completely dry right now, and Rosberg's lead is over a minute at this particular point. However, his teammate, Jacques Laffite, who is solidly entrenched for a good part of the race in second place, has dropped down with apparent mechanical trouble. Thus, you have Nelson Piquet, the 1981 world champion, running second. Running third in car number 15 is Alain Prost of France. Running fourth in car 27, Patrick Tambay in a Ferrari. And Ricardo Patrese, who won this race last year, is fifth. They're all on the same lap. And Danny Sullivan, the young American, hanging right in there. He's a lap down, but is currently in 6th place. I'm Al Michaels reporting with Jackie Stewart. We have Jody Scheckter working the pits. Keke Rosberg is looking for his second career Grand Prix victory. Last year, he won the World Championship, had a remarkably consistent season, though he won only one race. That was the Swiss Grand Prix. We have a moment to take a look around this fabled principality. Right there, the Romanesque-style Cathedral of St. Nicholas, where the prince and princess were married, and nearby, the lovely exotic gardens with cactus and brilliantly colored flowers that are grown side by side. The Formula One cars are not the only ones that grace the roads of Monaco this weekend. The chariots of the rich are quite in evidence, as always, on Grand Prix weekend. And it's their owners who patronize the specialty stores of Monaco, where one can purchase baubles of one sort or another for a mere 5 figures. Items, perhaps, that would only appeal here. A great sport in Monaco this time of year is people watching, looking at the bejeweled on parade. And this unparalleled sight is of the Royal Palace, high on the Rock of Monaco, home of the royal family. But the mood has been greatly saddened through the loss this past year of Princess Grace. Jackie Stewart reflects.
One of the traditions here in Monaco for the Grand Prix was that for many years Princess Grace and Prince Rainier opened the racetrack generally in an open car. The Prince and Princess presented the trophy to the winner, and in the evening of the Grand Prix hosted the gala in the sporting club. Sadly, Princess Grace will not be at this year's Monaco Grand Prix. Her passing has left a void in Monaco that can surely never be forgotten. From the time of the fairy tale marriage to Prince Rainier, her beauty, her style, her effervescence, and her dignity projected new life into the tiny domain. Her contributions were many. Social events became happenings in the jet-set world. The flower show in Monaco became an international date, and a rose was given her name. The performing arts were not overlooked. L'Académie des Danses Classiques Princess Grace has grown and flourished in Monaco and will hopefully continue with contributions from the public. Her dedication to the responsibilities as a member of the reigning monarchy was enormous. But above all, Princess Grace was more committed to her family than anything else, a devoted and proud mother who adored her children and accomplished by great dedication the task of bringing them up successfully to be public figures, as well as being happy in the privacy of the family unit. Princess Grace has been an example to the world in so many ways. She was truly one of the most beautiful women. Her Serene Highness was indeed the epitome of serenity.
Renier is here today looking on with his family, and they have watched Keke Rosberg lead almost from the very outset. He has built up a very big lead, and right now he has put yet another lap on the American Danny Sullivan in the green car. Sullivan is down by 2 laps, but he is in 6th place at this particular point, so a good showing overall. And he's a fella, Jackie, that you have known for quite some time.
Al, when I first met Danny Sullivan, he was a wee boy, even smaller than I am now, and that says a thing or two. He came around the Tyrrell workshop in England. Just to get close to racing cars, he would do anything. He would sweep the floor just to be real close to racing. He's a fella who's been brought up in Louisville, Kentucky. He's called the Kentucky Kid. It's not him we're looking at right now. That's Keke Rosberg, the leader of this race. But Danny Sullivan, I think, is going to leave his mark in motor racing and is going to wave the flag for America. He's been in Can-Am racing. He's won races there. He went to Indianapolis last year as a rookie, did really well indeed. And in fact, for going to Indianapolis this year to concentrate in Grand Prix racing. Keke Rosberg, the man still in the lead here at Monte Carlo, however.
There's the car of Riccardo Patrese. He had been in to change rubber, had been doing quite well. In fact, he had worked his way up into 5th position and was sitting there steadily. Then he went into the pits, and now he has come to a complete halt, and that has moved the American driver, Danny Sullivan, into 5th place. So Sullivan is still 2 laps down, but in the top 5 at the moment, because Patrese, who is the defending champion here in Monaco, is through. On in Monaco all week long. He was the United States' first Grand Prix champion. He won the world title in 1961, and we first saw him on Wide World of Sports in 1962 here in Monaco when he chased Bruce McLaren in a race McLaren eventually won. Recently, we started a series called It Seems Like Only Yesterday. Hill is the subject today, and Sam Posey visited with him.
Phil Hill doesn't drive Formula One cars anymore. Today he drives cars such as this 1919 Pierce Arrow around another seaside town, Santa Monica, California. The Phil Hill of his championship years is known as a nervous, aggressive driver, brought everything he had to the job. Today, Phil Hill is still very much the same man, still involved with cars, still with as much energy as ever. He is a partner in the classic car restoration firm of Hill and Vaughan. This is not a hobby for Phil. A typical workday is a full 12 hours. It is a careful, painstaking sort of life, very different from his frenzied, much-traveled existence as a racing driver. His first races back in the early 1950s were in MGs and Jaguars, but it was driving Ferraris that would establish Phil's fame and reputation. In this one, he scored his first of 3 victories at Le Mans. It was 1958. The same year, he became part of the Ferrari Grand Prix team and led the world's best drivers in the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. He was a prodigious talent, but he was also a bundle of nerves.
I covered my nervousness with nervousness. And I really did. I found myself sort of almost elaborating on it because it was an active. It was a doing something. It was a, which made me get rid of. I didn't sit there and yawn like some of the others. Some of the others maybe got ulcers or something. But I just sort of acted out what I felt.
The battle for the 1961 World Driving Championship had its climax at Monza, Italy. The contenders were Phil, who by that time was 34 years old, and his Ferrari teammate, the German Count Wolfgang von Trips. They had dominated the season. Now one of them would be champion. The disastrous events of that day would become woven into the fabric of racing history. How Hill led on the first lap. How von Trips, after his poor start, was coming through the pack when he touched wheels with Jim Clark, triggering this crash, which killed not only von Trips, but also 12 spectators. Unaware that von Trips was dead, Phil went on to win the race and become the first American ever to be world champion. As he made his way to the winner's stand, he asked Carlo Chiti, the Ferrari team manager, what had happened to von Trips.
I said to Chiti, I said, how's Trips? And he's a lousy liar. And he just got a certain look on his face that just said it all right then. And then he said, he's fine. And then I was just sort of on automatic pilot for the, they shoved me up to the winner's stand and having to go through all that business, and so I just sort of was automatic about the whole thing, which very often you are anyhow, right? You can, it wasn't the first time that I had stood on a winner's platform and been thinking about something else very powerfully.
The Monza race of 1961 was to become irrevocably linked with another race at Monza in 1978. Again, two teammates were locked in a battle for the World Championship, Mario Andretti and Ronnie Peterson, both driving for Lotus. And then this happened, a fiery, horrible crash that would take the life of Ronnie Peterson and hand the World Championship to Andretti. It was only the second time an American had ever been champion, and for both to have won in such tragic circumstances seemed beyond coincidence.
17 years later at the same place in the same race and I just felt for him so much, knowing that he must have felt very similar to what I did.
Today, Phil Hill lives in this house in Santa Monica, the same house in which he has lived for almost 40 years. His trophies, which he largely ignores, are there, as is his fully operational collection of player pianos, which, as with all things musical, he loves. Phil didn't marry until his racing years were behind him, and at 56, he has a young family. He and his wife, Alma, have 2 children, Vanessa and Derek. For someone of unceasing action, he is also a man of deep introspection, aware and proud of the fact that he has fulfilled his childhood ambitions, that his life has a certain continuity to it.
I think what caused me to think I could become a racing driver was the fact that I sort of needed to be a racing driver. Now, don't ask me why, as individuals, we pick certain things that go further than just a superficial what we would like to be. They get into really what we just have to be. And to be a racing driver just suited what my needs were as a youngster to a T. And I wasn't really aware of it at the time. I thought it was some sort of, that it was the subject rather than me that wanted to do it. It was so great. I still think it is great, of course. I think it's a great, I think motor racing is just the greatest thing going.
Even now?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think it's just, I just can't think of anything that's more wonderful than automobile racing. Can you?
So, do you miss it?
Yeah, I miss it, yeah. I miss it a lot.
The Grand Prix of Monaco winding down with 2 laps to go. Al Michaels with Jackie Stewart and Jody Scheckter, and the race has belonged to K.K. Rosberg. The Williams team made the right decision at the outset today when it looked like it might rain, it might not. We didn't know which way the weather would go. It has remained dry. They were on the right tires. They have not had to pit, and K.K. Rosberg, who finished second this year in Brazil but was disqualified for getting a push start, who did not pick up any points in Long Beach, who finished 5th in the French Grand Prix and 4th in the last Grand Prix, the one at San Marino, is on his way, Jackie, to his second lifetime victory.
I think also technically one of the best races this young man has ever driven, because the first 10 laps in very slippery conditions, as far as I'm concerned, were brilliantly handled in difficult conditions, because he did have dry weather tires on a wet racetrack. He really must have been driving the car with great sensitivity to achieve those first 10 laps as competently as he did. I take my hat off to him today.
His teammate, Jacques Lafitte, who was running second for quite some time, went out earlier with a mechanical problem. Otherwise, it would have been an incredible day for the Williams team. But K.K. Rosberg, who has been battling hepatitis and is recovering from that ailment, is just a little more than one lap away from a victory, and it would be, in essence, a wire-to-wire win. Even though he started 5th on the starting grid, he was back in the 3rd row. He moved quickly into 2nd by the time they reached the Sandevaux turn, and officially was the leader at the end of the first lap. At the end of lap 1, he took the lead at that point from Alain Prost. He's on the final lap right now.
Well, he was given 1 lap to go there by Michel Ferry in the start-finishing line, as he now weaves his way around, making sure that he makes no error now, because this Grand Prix of Monaco, for any Grand Prix driver, is the pearl amongst the jewels. This is the race that everybody wants to win, with such a glamorous backdrop, with just all of the nostalgia that Monaco supplies to us as racing drivers. I know as a personal point of view, this is a race that I desperately always wanted to win. And for K.K. Rosberg to be the reigning world champion and to come here this year to win this race, he just can't afford to do anything wrong now. And he's only got about, I would say, half a mile to go before the end of this final lap in Monaco, going through the tunnel for the last time. He must be just holding his breath right now.
There are 7 cars still running. We had 20 that started, and right now, unless somebody winds up in a guardrail or runs out of gas, they're going to finish this way with Rosberg on top. Nelson Piquet running 2nd. Alain Prost of France will wind up in 3rd. Then Patrick Tambay of France, driving for Ferrari, will be 4th. Danny Sullivan of the United States, one of the 7 still running, will wind up in 5th place. Mauro Baldi of Italy will wind up 6th, and Chico Serra of Brazil will finish 7th. And there he is, and he is saluted by those in his pit as he takes the checkered flag. K.K. Rosberg of Finland. They call him the Flying Finn on the Grand Prix circuit, the winner of the 1983 Grand Prix of Monaco, and he did it by going wire to wire.